Canada is building something that could change its future for generations. While the US struggles to hold its lead in the global energy race, Canada is creating new opportunities that could bring more jobs, stronger exports, and greater power on the world stage. Approximately 80 low-carbon hydrogen production projects have been announced across Canada since 2020, representing more than $100 billion in potential investment. That number, $100 billion in declared project interest across a single energy technology sector in a single country, describes an industrial mobilization that has no direct parallel in Canadian energy history, outside the original development of Alberta's oil sands. And unlike the oil sands, which took decades to attract that level of committed capital, Canada's hydrogen sector assembled this pipeline in 4 years. The government and industry machinery behind it is now actively determining which of those 80 projects become the next generation of Canadian energy exports. Canada's hydrogen strategy, released in December 2020, was the federal government's call to action on low-carbon hydrogen as a tool to achieve net zero emissions by 2050, while simultaneously creating jobs, growing the economy, and expanding exports. The 2024 progress report on that strategy, compiled through more than 80 working group meetings involving over 1,000 companies, organizations, and individuals, documents where that call to action has led. The results across production, infrastructure, international agreements, and regulatory development describe a sector that has moved from policy framework to active industrial development faster than most comparable energy transitions in modern history. The production numbers are specific. As of the progress report's compilation, 13 low-carbon hydrogen production facilities are already in operation in Canada, comprising 6 electrolytic facilities and 7 natural gas reforming projects equipped with carbon capture. The 80 announced projects have the combined potential to bring 5 million tons of annual low-carbon hydrogen production capacity online, if all proceed to full operation. Current deployed capacity sits at 3,450 tons of hydrogen per year. The distance between current operational capacity and announced potential capacity is the measure of how much construction the next decade of Canadian hydrogen investment will require. The capital structure supporting that construction is documented and partially deployed. The federal government's Clean Hydrogen Investment Tax Credit is projected to provide $17.7 billion in tax incentive support to the sector by 2035. The $15 billion Canada Growth Fund lists hydrogen as a key investment target. The Clean Fuels Fund has selected approximately 10 hydrogen production projects, totaling over $300 million in support. The Strategic Innovation Fund committed $300 million to Air Products' net zero hydrogen complex in Edmonton alone, a 140,000 ton per year facility using autothermal reforming technology. With greater than 90% carbon capture, expected to be commissioned in 2024 as an anchor facility for the Edmonton Region Hydrogen Hub. 23 announced export projects constitute the majority of planned new production capacity, signaling that the commercial logic driving the $100 billion in stated investment interest is predominantly export-oriented rather than domestic. The export opportunity is concentrated in 2 geographic corridors on opposite ends of the country, serving 2 different global markets. In Atlantic Canada, specifically Nova Scotia, Newfoundland and Labrador, and New Brunswick, abundant and undeveloped offshore and onshore wind resources provide the renewable electricity feedstock for electrolytic hydrogen production. The resulting hydrogen, or ammonia, can be loaded at deep-water Atlantic ports for direct shipment to European buyers. In Western Canada, primarily Alberta and British Columbia, natural gas reforming with carbon capture produces blue hydrogen, or ammonia, for export through Pacific ports to Japan, South Korea, and other Asian markets. Germany is the anchor-buyer relationship on the European side. In August 2022, Canada and Germany signed a joint declaration of intent to establish a Canada-Germany hydrogen alliance, committing both countries to create a transatlantic hydrogen supply chain before 2030. In March 2024, that commitment advanced into a memorandum of understanding, establishing a dedicated bilateral window through Germany's H2 Global Foundation, a program that will support commercial transactions between Canadian hydrogen producers and German industrial buyers, through aligned supply and demand auctions producing formal hydrogen purchase agreements. Germany has stated its intention to import 50 to 70% of its hydrogen demand by 2030, approximately 3 to 4 million tons of hydrogen annually, as it decarbonizes hard-to-abate industrial sectors and reduces dependence on Russian fossil fuel imports. Canada, through the Atlantic Hydrogen Export Projects, intends to capture a portion of that import demand. The individual projects in Atlantic Canada advancing toward that European market are at various stages of development. Everyone Fuels' Point Tupper project in Nova Scotia, located at what the company describes as the deepest ice-free shipping terminal on North America's Atlantic coast, plans to produce approximately 1 million tons per year of low-carbon ammonia converted from hydrogen, powered by onshore wind and solar, for export to global markets. It passed its provincial environmental assessment in February 2023. World Energy GH2's project, Geological, in Newfoundland and Labrador, with a MOU partnership with the Kalipu First Nation and a $50 million investment from South Korea's SK Eco Plant, targets up to 250,000 tons per year of hydrogen, converted to ammonia for global export, powered by wind farms, with the potential to expand to over 3 gigawatts of onshore capacity. It received Crown Land approval and its provincial environmental assessment. The Hydrogen Strategy Progress Report documents 12 international agreements, 23 announced export projects, and 8 hydrogen hubs formed or forming across Canada. The international agreements span the Netherlands, the United States, South Korea, Japan, and the European Union, a geographic distribution of bilateral energy commitments that reflects the range of markets Canadian hydrogen export projects are targeting. The Canada-Germany relationship is the most commercially advanced, with the H2 Global mechanism providing a structured pathway for actual supply and purchase contracts rather than only framework agreements. The discovery dimension of Canada's hydrogen story extends beyond manufactured hydrogen to naturally occurring geological hydrogen. A mine in Sault Ste. Plus, Marie, Ontario, has been documented releasing hydrogen gas from an underground shaft described by researchers as potentially releasing enough natural hydrogen each year to power approximately 400 homes. The Smithsonian Magazine documented the finding as an example of naturally occurring hydrogen that could represent an untapped source of clean energy requiring less processing than conventional production pathways. Researchers are examining whether subsurface geological hydrogen deposits exist at commercially relevant scale across Canada's geology. At the intersection of the production numbers, the international agreements, the investment tax credits, the export projects, and the natural hydrogen discoveries sits a projection that Canada's own federal modeling supports.